Welcome to Cybersecurity for Manufacturers. We are talking about protecting the supply chain, or as I like to say, from firewall to factory floor. This is your complete guide to not getting hacked while making stuff. So, as you can see on the screen, my name is Rick, and yes, that last name is really long, spelled with a lot of letters that don't look like they go together, but I can assure you it is not a Polish word for my email signature takes up 3 lines. I'm here to lead you through this Choose Your Adventure webinar about keeping your manufacturing operations secure. So today we're going to talk about how to protect everything from your email servers to your CNC machines, because you know what? The bad guys, they don't just want your customer database. They want your proprietary manufacturing processes too. So buckle up. We're going to be in for a great ride, I promise you. All right. So a little about me. I'm the strategic communications lead for the nonprofit Move America, and I work with the Project Spectrum outreach team led by my incredible colleague and the overlord of this webinar, Mark Chisholm. Have to say nice things about Mark or he's going to turn my microphone and camera off. Project Spectrum is a Department of Defense recognized cybersecurity awareness initiative. For those of you who don't know, we provide the tools and training you need to maintain compliance with DoD contracting requirements without the possibility of needing a PhD in computer science. So kind of think of us as your friendly neighborhood cybersecurity guides, except instead of fighting crime with web slinging, we fight it with network segmentation and multi-factor authentication. Always, always, always MFA. All right, so a few quick housekeeping reminders. First of all, your microphone is muted because we really don't need to know that Amazon is at the door or hear what your colleagues are going to be picking for their fantasy football teams. Your camera is also off because I don't need to see you rolling your eyes at every dad joke I'm going to tell today. That would be an awful lot of eye rolling. Please make sure that you're checking how your name is displayed. Make sure you're not showing up as conference room B or definitely paying attention, as much as we like to see those. If you would like to ask some questions, be sure to drop those into the chat box. We have our cyber advisors on the call, and we're going to answer as many as we can as time permits. Remember, no question is too basic. And finally, this webinar is being recorded. We have to let you know that we are in the wonderful state of Maryland, which is a 2-party consent state. So by staying on this webinar, you are officially consenting to be recorded. Now remember, no cameras or microphones will be active on your end. So basically, all you're doing is giving us permission to record me talking at you, which is a pretty good deal for you. But I'm going to go ahead and give a couple of seconds for anybody who wants to jump off. Feel free to do so. You could catch the replay later, and I promise we'll still be friends, just not best friends. 3, 2, and 1. If you're still here, thanks so much. Excellent. Let's go ahead and begin because we've got a lot to cover today. And here's what we are covering today. We're going to start out with Project Spectrum's mission and the current threat landscape. Then we'll dive into the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification, otherwise known as CMMC, explaining federal regulations, FCI, CUI, and enough acronyms to make your head spin. Next, we're going to talk about protecting the supply chain. We've got the key elements of cyber resilience and those common compliance gaps. Then we're off to asset mapping, from firewall to factory floor, identifying everything from your server room to that CNC machine that's running Windows XP and has been since the Bush administration. And sadly, we're talking about the first Bush administration. Then we'll walk through a practical roadmap to resilience, share some tools and resources, and then last but not least, if time permits, we'll open it up for Q&A. So everything's here, buckle up. Now, first of all, we want to talk a little bit about Project Spectrum. We are a comprehensive platform providing tools and training to maintain compliance with DoD contracting requirements. Here's why we exist. You, manufacturers, make things that keep our military ready. If threat actors compromise your systems, they can steal designs, disrupt production, or access sensitive information that could harm national security. We are here to make sure that when someone tries to hack your systems, and believe me, they will try, they're met with some robust defenses instead of an open door and a welcome mat. So speaking of that, let's talk about why we're all here. I have to say it, the defense industrial base is under attack right now, as we speak, constantly. Look at these numbers. 43% of all cyber attacks target small and medium businesses known as SMBs. But only 14% of SMBs have plans to mitigate these attacks. That's not 14% of the 43%. That's 14% of all of them. It's kind of like knowing there's a 43% chance of rain and only 14% of people bring an umbrella. Then you've got 74% of breaches which are caused by us, humans, human error. The problem exists between the chair and the keyboard. 3 out of 4 times, it isn't a sophisticated nation-state hacker. It's Dave from accounting who's clicked on a "You've won an iPad free EXE" file. We don't want you to do that, Dave. The cost. Now, this is just monetary cost. It ranges somewhere between $826, which, believe me, is the very low end, to an average of $653,000 on the high end. Again, that's the average. That's not the maximum per incident. Many cyber breaches can actually run up costs into the millions, and that's just the initial collateral damage. And only 17% of SMBs actually have the proper insurance coverage, because believe me when I tell you that your business insurance just doesn't cut it. No gecko is going to come along and offer you 15% or more savings on cybersecurity insurance. It's too specialized. And then you look at why SMBs are targeted. Let's face it, you've got intellectual property. You've got those trade secrets. You work with dual use technologies. You have access to sensitive government information. And then we realize that you're interconnected with those larger defense contractors. You're basically the side door to the big vault, and the latch on the side door is broken. No offense. But when you're looking at manufacturing, why are manufacturers targeted specifically? Well, that's simple. You've got a few reasons. You've got your supply chain access points. All a threat actor needs to do is compromise one vendor, and then that attacker can access an entire network of business relationships. You've got your value of your intellectual property. That IP holds significant value on the black market. Look, you spent years developing your proprietary process. Some foreign competitor would love to have it without spending a dime on the R&D budget. Then you've got your limited in-house cybersecurity resources. Look, we get it. You're focused on production and delivery. Hiring a chief information security officer was not in the budget. But really, when you don't do something like that, it's kind of like trying to guard a castle when the guard is also the cook, the janitor, and sadly, the court jester as well. And who are your top 5 enemies? Well, let me just say, they are out there. You've got phishing and social engineering. A simple email can trigger a serious breach. And these aren't Nigerian prince emails anymore. We've all learned to ignore those. Well, at least most of us anyway. They're sophisticated impersonations nowadays. You've got ransomware that disrupts production. When it hits, entire assembly lines halt. Every computer ends up with a message on it that says, "Pay us Bitcoin or never see your data again." And that really is a day where you're going to cancel all meetings and call the FBI. Then you've got supply chain vulnerabilities. Remember the Target breach that happened a while back? Guess what? It started with their HVAC vendor. The air conditioning guy accidentally gave hackers access to the point of sale systems. Still think you're okay? Then you've got antiquated equipment vulnerabilities. Remember that machine that's running Windows XP, or that controller that has firmware from 2008? Look, folks, we all like vintage. It's not vintage. It's vulnerable. Legacy systems were not designed with modern cyber threats in mind. They can't be easily patched, and attackers know exactly which vulnerabilities to exploit. It's kind of like leaving a 1950s lock on your front door. Yeah, it's retro and it still technically works, but you get anyone with a lockpick and a YouTube account and they can get through it. Then you've got intellectual property theft. Years of R&D gone. Competitive advantage eliminated. That's an existential business threat. Existential. And then you've got operational disruption. Beyond immediate financial impact, there are lingering equipment malfunctions, compliance violations, and that customer trust, it's shaken. And we're not saying it in like shaken, not stirred. It's shaken and stirred. It's dead. So you really don't want any of that. So we've successfully terrified you. Sorry. but we have to do it. There's good news though. There's a framework for protecting yourself called CMMC. Again, the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification. CMMC isn't just bureaucracy for bureaucracy's sake. It's actually a roadmap for securing your operations in a way that makes sense for manufacturers. So we want to make sure that you continue to do that. Now, you have to understand there are 3 levels of CMMC. For those of you keeping score at home, we've got level 1, which is foundational. This is basic data safeguarding for FCI only. 15 requirements, annual self-assessment. Guess what? This is the tutorial level. Then you've got level 2, which is advanced. And this is for those entities that handle CUI data. 110 requirements based on NIST SP 800-171. For basic CUI, you self-assess. For specified CUI, you need that certified third-party assessment organization assessment. There is that acronym C3PAO. It's not a droid from Star Wars, believe me. Most of you are going to land at this level on level 2. It is substantial and it does require investment, sorry to say, but it's absolutely achievable. Then you've got CMMC level 3. This is the expert level. 134 glorious requirements for national security programs. Government-led assessments every 3 years. This is the final boss level. Most manufacturers will not need CMMC level 3. So you can take a deep breath there. But guess what? It's good to know that it's there just in case you need it. Now, you need to stop and understand FCI and CUI because you need to know what type of data you handle. That's literally step 1 in cybersecurity. FCI stands for Federal Contract Information. This is sensitive but not classified information from government contracts. Your examples include contract information, org charts, process documentation, performance reports, and those RFP, RFI responses that you had ChatGPT do for you. Then you've got CUI, which is Controlled Unclassified Information. This is really sensitive information requiring safeguarding. Examples are proprietary business information, which you really don't want others to have. Controlled technical information, sensitive but unclassified data. You've got your for official use only stuff. A lot of that's legacy, but some people still use it. And then you've got law enforcement sensitive because we don't want to give away what's going on with law enforcement. Many businesses end up handling CUI without even realizing it. It's kind of like finding out your regular tomato plant is actually a controlled agricultural specimen. And hopefully it doesn't go all little shop of horrors on you and start trying to eat people. So the bottom line is FCI equals CMMC level 1 at a minimum. CUI equals CMMC level 2 at a minimum. Your contracts should specify what data you handle. If you're not sure, ask, because believe me, the only dumb question is the one you don't ask and then get audited for later. So let's go ahead and get real for a moment. November marked the official start of CMMC implementation. The DFARS rule became live on September 10th, and phase 1 began on November 10th, which, if you're looking at your calendar, was 10 days ago. This isn't coming soon. This is happening now. Like now. Why does it matter? You have to understand that adhering to cybersecurity standards is non-negotiable. It's not only going to protect your sensitive, it's going to enhance your sensitiveness. So what should you do? First, you need to assess your current cybersecurity posture. You need to then develop a compliance strategy. And last but not least, you need to stay informed. Look, it's all about being proactive. That's what's going to set your business apart and pave the way for future opportunities. It's like going down the yellow brick road, except the yellow bricks really are gold and not just covered in a yellow substance that you really shouldn't step in. Then you've got CMMC, the rollout, it's phased. Phase 1 is year 1. This is now, like now. This is only for a limited number of contracts, though. We're here now, but it's not affecting everybody. Phase 2 is going to be years 2 and 3. This is going to be a broader integration across most DoD programs. Phase 3, year 4 and beyond. All applicable contracts are going to require compliance. By 2028, every contractor processing FCI or CUI must maintain active CMMC certification or self-assessment in SPURS, which is the Supplier Performance Risk System. 3 years kind of sounds like a long time until it isn't. So no time like the present to get started. Now we get into protecting the supply chain. This is where theory meets practice, okay? This is where the rubber meets the road, where we stop talking about cybersecurity in the abstract and start talking about your cybersecurity specifically. Here's an uncomfortable truth. The supply chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And right now, small and medium manufacturers are being viewed as that weak link, which is unfortunate because nobody wants to be the weak link. The weak link never gets the trophy. It's the reason the heist in Ocean's 11 almost fails. And it's usually the person voted off the island first. But here's the thing. You're not the weak link because you're doing something wrong. You're the weak link because you're under-resourced, you're over-targeted, and you're under-protected. You're trying to run a manufacturing operation and be a cybersecurity fortress. Look, that's like trying to be both a chef and the bodyguard at the same time. I know Gordon Ramsay might be able to pull it off. He's angry enough. But for the rest of us, it's going to be a challenge. And guess what? The attackers, they know this. They're not targeting you because you're easy. Okay, they're totally targeting you because you're easier than the big guys, but they're also targeting you because you're valuable. You're the side entrance. You're the ventilation shaft in the Death Star that nobody thought to cover. You're the pizza delivery guy in every heist movie who accidentally lets the bad guys into the building. But we're going to go ahead and change all that. We're going to turn you from the weak link into the strong link. We're going to make you this reinforced titanium grade, good luck getting through this type of link, like a Clint Eastwood movie. We're going to make those attackers look at your security and say, you know what? Let's go try someone else. So the key concept you need to understand is cybersecurity is a chain, therefore the weak link. Organizations, networks, and families are only as strong as their weakest link. Yep, there I go using that term again. But you know what? You know what happens to the weakest link? You get a host who's either a British woman wearing glasses or a really tall actress that says goodbye. Cyber resilience is crucial for manufacturing organizations in the defense industrial base, where the ability to keep operations running despite cyber incidents directly affects mission readiness and contractual commitments. If you can't deliver because you got hit with ransomware, that affects your customer, their customer, and potentially the entire supply chain. So how do manufacturers build resilience? You do this by identifying your critical assets, protecting your operational technology and your IT systems, swiftly detecting incidents and recovering without long delays. Connecting with these CMMC points, connecting all of these with CMMC, this is what's going to enhance both security and continuity. All right. So next, we're going to talk about the key elements of cyber resilience, because building cyber resilience is all about establishing a structured, sustainable approach that prepares you to withstand and recover from cyber incidents without crippling operations. You've got 5 widely recognized pillars providing a practical framework: identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. This is the NIST cybersecurity framework, and it's used around the world because it works. And we're going to go ahead and map these to the CMMC requirements. So when you're mapping these pillars to CMMC, identify is basically supporting asset management, configuration management, and CUI identification requirements. Protect maps to access control, physical protection, and system integrity safeguards. Detect aligns with auditing, monitoring, and anomaly detection objectives. Respond addresses incident handling, reporting, and escalation criteria. And recover links to contingency and recovery planning, ensuring operational continuity. By mapping these pillars to CMMC, manufacturers can strengthen both their defense posture and their ability to maintain production integrity. Now, I know defense posture sounds like something from a karate class, but here's what it actually means. You get to keep making stuff, also while keeping the bad guys out, which is literally the entire point. And here's the best part. It works. It's not just theoretical. It's not just trust me, bro kind of advice. This is the framework that, again, is used worldwide because it actually helps. It's been tested against real attackers almost as much as Chuck Norris's beard, and both of them, believe me, hold up. Have you seen Chuck Norris lately? So, where do manufacturers typically struggle? You've got incomplete asset inventories, especially for those OT systems. That networked CNC machine, is it in your asset inventory? I'm betting it probably is, or maybe it isn't, who knows? Unsegmented networks, production equipment, administrative systems, they share the same infrastructure. That's bad juju. Your factory floor and your finance department shouldn't be on the same network, even if they're the best of friends. Limited incident response exercises. Look, you've got a plan, but have you practiced it? When's the last tabletop exercise? Even the pros in the NFL are out there practicing, unless they claim they're hurt or it's in their contract that they don't. Inconsistent supplier vetting. Third-party risks should always be evaluated to the same standard as your internal systems. You're basically securing your own house with deadbolts, alarm systems, and guard dogs, and then you give your neighbor a key and passcode and a bag of doggy treats, and you don't even see if they lock their door. Then you're addressing these, which requires both technical and procedural changes. Network segmentation, expanding inventory to include OT, formalizing supplier assessments, and scheduling regular exercises. None of this is impossible. It's all achievable, but it requires intention, it requires planning, and it requires follow-through. And I have to say, speaking of the regular exercises, remember we're talking about tabletop exercises, not actual exercise. I understand at this point, many of you count walking from the IT department to the factory floor as your cardio for the day. And believe me when I say your Fitbit is very proud of you. So let's talk about asset mapping from the firewall to the factory floor. We're identifying every single device and piece of equipment that touches data, from your email server to that sensor on machine 47 that nobody's looked at since 2019. You can't protect what you don't know exists. It's like trying to lock all your doors when you don't know how many doors your house has. So every cybersecurity framework begins with knowing what you have. Asset mapping is identifying, categorizing, and maintaining an inventory of systems, software, devices, and data. Let's give you a real-world example here. A mid-size aerospace manufacturer used automated discovery tools that revealed 300 additional networked devices, including some legacy devices that had never been patched. Identifying these allowed them to isolate some critical machines, and it reduced their risk exposure by 70%. That's the power of asset mapping. I'm actually really impressed. They found 300 devices they didn't know they had. Most mornings, I can't even find my car keys. Then you've got asset mapping, which is required for CMMC. Excuse me, mouth is not working. Let's try that again. Asset mapping is required for CMMC compliance. You've got CMMC level 1. All assets that process, store, or transmit FCI must be in scope. These are your servers, your workstations, your mobile devices, your network appliances, applications, cloud services, and even your manufacturing equipment. Then you've got CMMC level 2. This expands to any system that processes, stores, or transmits CUI. These must implement NIST SP 800-171 controls. The key word is any. If it touches CUI, it's in scope with absolutely no exceptions. Asset mapping extends well beyond your office networks, your network edge, like your firewalls, your routers, and your VPNs. Look, these are your digital doorways. You don't want to just leave them open with a sign that says, come on in. Your servers and applications where your data lives. Again, you don't want to just open this up to anybody. User endpoints like laptops, mobile devices, and shared workstations, because believe me, no cyber breaches ever happen to any of those things, right? Then you've got your operational technology, your industrial controls, your IIoT devices on production lines, and then you've got something called SCADA or SCADA. We love our acronyms, don't we? You've got all these things. It's all making your manufacturing business run. And then your external service providers, from your cloud to your hosting to your managed IT services. You need visibility into all these layers. And we mean real visibility, not like what you got with those silly x-ray glasses you used to get in the joke/magic shop. Now, once your assets are identified, you need to prioritize your risk. And it's helpful to use a matrix. You've got criticality. How essential is it to your operations? If it goes down, does production come to a grinding halt? Exposure. Is it internet facing or is it just internally isolated? Data sensitivity. Does it handle FCI, CUI, or neither? And then you've got your control maturity. What protection is already in place? Look, you're not treating everything the same. You're applying appropriate controls based on actual risk. It's like how you lock your front door, but maybe you don't lock your garden shed. If you have a really nice lawnmower, you might want to lock the shed too. It's a good idea. In modern manufacturing, OT is no longer isolated. Guess what? Smart factories are here, and they create new cybersecurity challenges. A breach on the factory floor can compromise FCI systems that are protected by your corporate firewall. So we've got some key recommendations. You want to make sure that that OT network and the IT network, they're segmented. Again, they shouldn't be talking to each other. They should be on separate ends of the house, like Tom Hanks and Shelley Long in The Money Pit. You've got disabling unnecessary remote access to industrial controllers. Conduct vulnerability assessments on those IIoT devices quarterly, and then treat your firmware as critical software subject to version control. Folks, welcome to the future. We've made a lot of progress. Your CNC machine and your email server, now they can both get hacked. So yay us for moving ahead. Now, again, from firewall to factory floor, every connected device is part of your security ecosystem. So I'm going to recap things a little bit. You want to make sure that you're identifying and classifying all assets that are handling FCI or CUI. Define clear network boundaries for CMMC scope. You want to apply least privilege and segmentation between IT and OT. You want to make sure you're using automated asset discovery tools for real-time visibility, and you want to integrate asset risk data into your CMMC assessments. CMMC compliance is about creating this resilient, transparent environment that protects your contracts, protects your clients, and protects your reputation. Because let me just say, nobody's ever won a new contract by including the line, yeah, we got hacked, but at least we saved money on cybersecurity. Now, for the practical roadmap to resilience, this is the how do I actually do this section? Because let me just say, cyber resilience is not a one-time project. It's not a destination, it's a journey. It's an evolving capability that's going to grow through assessment, planning, and continual improvement. It's kind of like fitness. You build capability over time. Any shortcuts are probably a waste of time and money that will get you no real results. No pills, no stuff that you strap on that just makes your muscles twitch. None of that is going to work. Trust me, there is no easy button, no matter what that Staples commercial promised you. So we've got your practical roadmap to resilience, and we're going to start with step 1. Assess your current resilience maturity. You need to evaluate your capabilities across the 5 pillars. Remember, those are identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. Then you need to review your asset inventories, your incident response readiness, your backup reliability, your network segmentation, and you need to make sure you're checking out those supply chain dependencies. For manufacturers, you need to assess both your IT and your OT environments. And again, be honest, this is like stepping on the scale before a diet. You need your starting point, and it needs to be real. Standing with one foot on the floor on your tiptoes, that's not going to do you any favors down the road. When it comes to step 2, this is where we're going to prioritize quick wins versus those longer term investments. Quick wins are basically easy. They've got a low cost, but they can have a really big impact. These include enforcing MFA for remote access. Please, 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 MFA, MFA, MFA. We can't say that enough. Segmenting OT from IT networks. We've talked about that. Expanding your security awareness training. Then you've got the longer term investments. These require more planning and they require more budget. Totally worth it though. These include modernizing those outdated OT systems. Remember, just because something still works doesn't mean that it should be still working. Think about your elderly parents or grandparents. Do you really want them out on the manufacturing floor? Deploying advanced anomaly detection tools, and then implementing strong supply chain risk management. Trust me, balancing these is going to show progress to those stakeholders when you're building a solid foundation. And stakeholders, they love seeing results. On this one, we just all finished our annual reviews and we've heard that. So when you're talking about step 3, you're talking about balancing compliance, cost, and operational impact. Every change must be evaluated for security and benefits and impact on production. You need to plan changes during maintenance windows. Test thoroughly, communicate clearly. You can't just shut down the production line on a Tuesday morning and announce, surprise, we're upgrading security. I mean, you can, but you'll suddenly have a lot of free time to work on your resume. Ensure improvements are matching the CMMC practices, and then you're going to get those dual advantages. You're going to meet compliance and you're going to lower your operational risk, and you got to love that. Step 4 is building an organization where you're talking about, I went too far. I went one slide too far. Sorry. Step 4, building an organization-wide resilience culture. Look, embedding security awareness into onboarding. That's a really important thing. Hold that regular refresher training. I know, everybody complains. We've got more important things to do. Believe me, you don't. Conduct scenario-based exercises involving both IT and OT teams and practice that incident response before a real incident. Test it because, again, it's like a fire drill. Nobody likes doing them. They always happen at inconvenient times and you really wonder, do I really need to get up from my desk and get outside? But guess what? When there's an actual fire, you'll be really glad you practiced it and know what to do without having to think about it. Except instead of a fire, it's ransomware. And instead of evacuating the building, you're isolating those network segments. But trust me, you get the idea. All right, now on to step 5. Nope, I went right to step 4. Why? Or went right past it. Now on to step 5. There we go. We need to study some real world examples. One aerospace component supplier reduced its downtime risk by creating a secure segmented OT network and enforcing those role-based access controls. They didn't replace everything. They segmented and controlled access. It was smart. It was practical. It was effective. Notice I didn't say cheap or instantaneous, by the way. Then you've got a defense electronics manufacturer that implemented daily backup verification and tested disaster recovery quarterly. And now that allowed them to resume production within hours after a ransomware attempt because they knew what to do and how to do it. Then you've got resilience. It doesn't require reinventing operations. It's about integrating smart security controls into your existing processes. You don't need to throw everything out and start over. This isn't one of those home renovation shows where they gut the entire house, right, Chip and Joanna? You're just adding some reinforcements to what you've already got. Now, we hear 3 objections constantly. Please forgive me if you have said these. I'm going to say them in kind of a whiny voice because it's kind of how we expect to hear it. It's too expensive. Look, I'm going to remind you again, CMMC is not discretionary. It's a cost of market entry. It's an investment with predictable ROI. Plus, consider the alternative. Lost contracts, breach costs, reputational damage, legal liability. You take all that into consideration and suddenly compliance doesn't look so expensive anymore, does it? We don't handle CUI. Many organizations handle CUI without even realizing it, especially in subcontracts. Even if you don't today, what about tomorrow? Why don't you look into future-proofing your business? Also, I have to tell you, the excuse, I didn't know it was CUI, works about as well with auditors as I didn't know that was a legal officer works with law enforcement. We're too small. Cyber attacks don't discriminate by size. You know what? Small suppliers are targeted as easy entry points into those larger supply chains. The attackers are counting on you thinking you're too small to matter. Congratulations, You're not too small. You're just the right size for their purposes. Lucky you. Now, here are some trusted government-endorsed platforms, so make sure you bookmark these once you get a copy of today's presentation. Or right now, you can take a screenshot or you can try to type really quickly, but we're kind of running short on time, so we can't stay on this slide very long, but good luck. You've got SPURS. This is where you're going to submit your self-assessment scores. You've got the DoD CUI registry. This has detailed CUI categories and the handling procedures behind them. Then you've got the Cyber AB Marketplace. This is where you find RPOs, official CMMC guidance, and C3PAOs, which are not the droids you are looking for because they aren't here, according to that nice old man in the hoodie. Then you've got NIST SP 800-171. Resources, they give you the source material for the whole CMMC enchilada. So make sure you check these out. Then you've got financial assistance. That's also available because guess what? Who doesn't like to get free money? I'll take free money. Anybody have any free money? I'm happy to take it. Send it to, care of Rick O at Project Spectrum. Your local MEP center may offer some subsidized gap assessments, workshops, even CMMC consulting. Usually it's free or it's heavily discounted, so just find yours today. Some states will offer grant matching, tax credits, or even funding for security upgrades. So check with your state's economic development office to find out more about that. If you're working with a large DoD contractor or could be working with one, sometimes they'll cover part of your compliance costs for sole source or niche suppliers. It's worth the conversation if you're critical to a prime. And I'm not talking about a prime like the energy drink that is really, really bad for you, but good for a millionaire's bottom line when he's not in the ring with people he shouldn't be in the ring with. Don't assume that you have to fund everything entirely alone. Remember, it's kind of like having the Avengers in your corner. There's always someone around to try to help to keep that purple alien from snapping his fingers. Now, don't forget about us, Project Spectrum. We offer comprehensive support in a number of ways. Look, you see all of these things on the screen. This is what we're offering to you. We've got templates for SSPs and POAMs. We've got self-assessment tools. We've got a cyber readiness dashboard. We even offer SPURS score generation, cybersecurity training, blogs, news updates, briefings like this one, and one-on-one cyber advisory services. All of that's there. Take advantage of it. It's everything designed for small and medium businesses, practical tools that you actually need to get compliant and stay compliant. It's basically like a CMMC toolkit, like Swiss Army knife, except instead of a tiny scissors and toothpick nobody uses because it's really gross to keep doing that, you actually get cybersecurity resources that solve real problems. Much more useful, although admittedly harder to fit in your pocket. Now, what do we want you to do? We want you to stay connected with us, like an astronaut that stays tethered to the space station on a spacewalk. Because when your tether's not there, nobody can hear you scream in space as you're floating away to nowhere. So what do? You visit our website. You can find us at projectspectrum.io. That is the main hub for all resources. Make sure you're emailing us at support@projectspectrum.io. We are going to respond to you. I promise you're going to hear back from us. We've got regular training webinars like this one. So check our website and our social media for upcoming sessions. We also send out email blasts. Mark is fantastic at email blasts, loves to contact people by email. Then you've got our social media channels. You can follow us on YouTube, where you could see replays of this webinar and all of our other webinars, and check in our LinkedIn page for updates and tips. And here's the cool part, really, really cool. We've got a virtual help desk right on the website. See that little question mark in the bottom right corner of the Project Spectrum website? That is something that you can click, and you will connect directly with one of our cyber advisors. It's better than the bat signal because instead of summoning Batman, you get cybersecurity help, which, depending on your current compliance status, might actually be more useful. Or maybe Batman would be more useful, but remember, he's kind of busy. All we're trying to say is you don't have to go through this alone. We are here to help. We want to make sure that you understand Project Spectrum is here for you every single step of the way. All right, we've made it through almost an hour, which officially makes this longer than most first dates and slightly less awkward. I want to thank you for sticking with me through all of this, the threat landscapes, the acronyms, the compliance frameworks, and all of my questionable analogies. Here's what I want you to remember when you wake up tomorrow and realize this wasn't just a very detailed anxiety dream. You need to start with your asset mapping. You need to know what you have. You can't protect what you don't know exists. And apparently a lot of you have devices that you didn't really know about, like 300 or so of them that an automated tool ended up finding. Build your resilience systematically using the 5 pillars. Look, Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither is a secure manufacturing environment. You got to remember, though, Rome was also sacked multiple times, so maybe that's not the best example. Although they do have really good food over there. Prioritize those quick wins while planning long-term investments. Get some victories on the board. Make your CFO happy. Then you can start to tackle the big stuff because you can go and ask for more money. Use your available resources. Seriously, we exist specifically to help you. Don't be that person who struggles for months and then discovers, oh, gee, there was free help available the whole time. It's as painful as watching someone try to open a push door by pulling on the handle for like 5 minutes. You really want to just jump in there and say, it says push. Look, CMMC, I'm telling you now, CMMC is completely achievable. Compliance is achievable. Cyber resilience is achievable. You don't have to become a cybersecurity expert. You just have to be willing to make sure that you're going to invest the time, the resources, and the attention that all of this deserves. And for the love of all that's good in digital, maybe enable MFA. Seriously, if you do nothing else, enable MFA. We've got to keep saying that. We had a previous Cyber Circus guest who said, if you do nothing else, enable MFA. I know it's a pain. I know you hate going on that authenticator app, but it really is helpful. Look, like I said, we're here to help. Reach out to Project Spectrum anytime. We actually want to hear from you. Unlike your spam folder, which is, I'm sure where invitation email probably originally landed. So one thing we want to do next is we want to try to open it up for questions. Remember, there are no dumb questions, folks, except the ones that you don't ask, or except the questions that might accidentally reveal that you're still running Windows XP on your critical infrastructure. I promise we won't judge much. But I want to introduce I'm going to go ahead and open up the floor for Mark Chisholm to take things away from me for just a little bit. Mark is going to introduce some folks who are way smarter than me about this stuff, and if I'm being honest, probably most stuff. They're going to answer some questions that were left in the chat, and if you have any questions now, please make sure that you are posting them into the chat because we want to make sure that we're answering them. As long as the questions are, does Rick really have an entire book filled with all of these dad jokes? Because the straight answer to that is no. So again, if you have a question, go ahead and pop them into the chat. But Mark, go ahead and take it away for a moment.
Thanks so much, Rick. Great info as always. I know we've had cyber advisors in the chat answering questions, but we are also joined today by Richard Rowe, Director of Project Spectrum, who will try to re-answer a few of those questions for anyone who may have missed them. Richard, welcome. Welcome.
Well, thank you very much. Great job, Rick, as well. I found myself going by Richard because I can't take away from your wonderful host there, Rick. But thank you all again for joining today. Just keep the questions coming. I think we're pretty much caught up. Someone just answered or asked, what is a recommended modem or router scenario? That's like, and I can't do justice to the dad jokes, but that's like asking the world what they want for lunch. You know, you'll get a bunch of different opinions. Go to the question mark on Project Spectrum, and one of our cyber advisors will walk you through that. Let's see. Can you give some examples of common CUIs in manufacturing space? Sure. If you're making things for the DoD, you know, we have one manufacturer that makes rocket fins. the drawings are CUI. And then your whole shop floor controls become different as you base it upon CUI fixing, if you will, or control. I've participated personally in 5 cyber attacks in the manufacturing area, and it's not pretty because you tend to ignore those controlling devices sitting on top of the CNC machines and stuff like that. In fact, one manufacturer I dealt with used to buy old XP devices that were throwaway because they're harsh environment based inside the shop floor control. And when one gave up the ship, he just put another one on there, and they were XP, and yet they are on the backbone with CUI devices. Come on, no, think through what you're doing. Type C does internal drawings initially created without specifications, but measurements considered. You should validate. So here, I answered one chat already. Your DoD contracting officer will tell you in no uncertain terms that the contract you're bidding on contains this, and this. And they will tell you, okay, if you're working on subsectional drawings or something like that, they will be or will not be CUI. It's always good to err on the CUI side of the house. Believe me, I have been in different situations where we are working with clients and they swear they don't have any CUI. We get them down the road of the level 1 certification, and then all of a sudden something comes up, and it's like, wait, you know that's CUI information right there. Most of the time in the manufacturing world, it is schematics, drawings, CAD-based entities being shipped to the shop floor control. You can isolate those drawings inside your enclave in the cloud or something like that. But the minute those coordinates get transmitted to that shop floor, that's when the vulnerabilities can also happen. So error on the high side there. Let's see, I work on a contract with CUI, producing a printed circuit board to develop a test apparatus to test the testing tool CUI, as long as it doesn't receive the coordinates or the instructions to be able to cut out the fin or whatever example that the machine's using in a test environment, then you can err on the safe side, if you will. But you're sending it the same coordinates you would in a real live environment. I wouldn't do that. Okay. And again, as Mark and Rick both iterated, lower right-hand side corner of projectspectrum.io is a question mark. You hit it, it asks you who you are. You can ask questions in there, and a cyber advisor will be monitoring that, responding accordingly, or getting another cyber advisor involved with the expertise. Something else that I do want to reiterate that Rick has done a great job with, and that is MFA. MFA is a pain, but and if you could do non-SMS MFA, a lot of acronyms there, and use the Authenticator app, even the better. Everything I own as MFA based. Something else to think about, and something else to put in the back of your mind, possibly for another webinar. Cyber insurance. It's a requirement. It's definitely a necessity in today's world. Cyber insurance is not that expensive. All of the companies that I worked with during that cyber intervention, if you will, all had cyber insurance. The worst payout was 2.5 million in Bitcoin. So cyber insurance, because the cyber insurance firm has something going for you. They have a team of forensic engineers that help isolate and fix the problem. So just put that in the back of your mind, cyber insurance. Cyber insurance for manufacturing. There is currently some white papers on cyber insurance under our white paper section that I personally wrote under projectspectrum.io. So go to Project Spectrum, take a look at the white papers, go back in history a little bit, and they're about 5 months old, but there are specifics inside there relating to manufacturing-based cyber insurance. It's just like car insurance. I mean, you wouldn't drive without car insurance. Any recommendations for software for DoD? MSC prevailed. They have 100 plus those that have passed 3.3. Okay, so yes, that's true. I'm not going to comment on a competitor's environment, but somebody else also asked an interesting question. We are paid by DoD/DOW, call it what you will, OSBP. We have an agnostic approach to things. We will tell you how to fix your environment with CMMC. We will give you the straight skinny. We won't recommend Bob's pen test down the road. We can't do that. We have to stay agnostic, but we are true to our word. We will help you with our cyber advisors to get you through level 1, level 2, level 3. And there are certain classifications. No two manufacturers are the same. No two companies are the same. Some people have tons of IT people, and all they need are the POEMs to execute. Some people have no one, and they make widgets. So they need our help a little bit further. Just go to projectspectrum.io, hit the question mark, and begin the conversation. I'm not keeping up with the chat, Mark or Rick. So,
Richard, I think you tackled a lot of them. One that we may have missed here is David asks, what type of select programs fall within the scope of level 2 where a self-assessment only is required, as opposed to level 2 where a C3PAO audit is required?
Okay, so we actually had a very interesting internal meeting, and we were discussing that like good geeks do. And DoD is going away from the self-attestment level 2 rapidly. They want a C3 involvement, okay, a C3PAO involvement, because there's very few things that can be self-attested anymore in both that environment. They are very specific. So they're going away from the self-attestment. I would assume that you will need a full-blown C3 PAO audit in anything you do. Now, a little advertisement for Project Spectrum. We're getting ready to, I personally reached out to all 50 state Chamber of Commerce, and we're putting up on our site something called grants and funding page. And we are agnostic. We're paid by Department of Defense to bring the good news to you. So I put this page up there, and it will be up there shortly, that you pick your state, you contact the link right there, and they have grants and funding available to help you out. And I can't stress that enough. And they're like, yeah, we have money left, you know, every year that we don't know what to do with because nobody knows how to contact with them. So the answer to the question, contact your DoD contracting officer. They will give you the straight skinny. Let's see, CMMC advisor service is free, or is there a reduced cost associated with the service? That's a really good question. Currently, we have a no-cost cyber advisory service, okay, because we are, like I said, paid by Department of Defense, Office of Small Business, OSBP. Questions? Keep going, guys. You're doing really well. It's 2:54. Again, I want to thank you very much. There's a lot of different informative videos on our site. There's courses on our site that talk about CMMC. They also talk about general cyber hygiene. Rick blushed over a couple things that are very important. Business continuity plans. What do you do if you're suddenly attacked and you have to throw away your laptop? We used to call it the paper-based way, right? Revert back to paper before computers. Nobody's even heard of that. Don't let the gray beard fool you. I'm only 34, but there's a huge amount of business continuity. How do you run your business if you're under a cyber attack? Also, as Rick mentioned, incident response planning. It's not just when you need it, who do I call? You need to do tabletop exercises. Let's pretend that we're under attack now. What do we do? I used to have a contract with a vendor that for $50 a month, I could call him. Within 2 hours, he would have 100 laptops reimaged on my doorstep. I mean, we took companies down to that level, and you have to think about that. You always have to think about the worst possible case. Let's see. And thank you. One of our cyber advisors, Leke, also helped out with that answer. Any other questions? Do you see any other, Mark or Rick? I don't want to leave anybody hanging here. But again, we're happy to be here. How do you treat BM sending an ERP system? Okay, so bill of materials. Those are components to build something. In of itself, if you label a screw, that is not CUI. But as you assemble the bill of material, and then you've got this thing that says fin for F-35 aircraft or something like that, guess what? Now you've labeled. And so the natural bill of material itself is not CUI, but as you assemble it together and you reference that BOM, the package becomes CUI. So we got non-connected group or highly sensitive proprietary info. Well, that's sort of a possibility. I would suggest you work with a cyber advisor to advise that. It's subject, obviously, if it's a physical computer, to the degradation or corruption just through age and stuff like that, or the loss or the break-in or the stealing. You know, you could put it in a secure enclave in the cloud, for example, or and stuff like that. Again, for specifics like that, give us a take under the question mark. I'm going to send it out so you have it. So Max here. Redaction of data on there doesn't really guarantee 100% CUI. It's a murky area. What you consider to be redacted, your contracting officer says, no, you've got a picture of this thing on there with the TOD logo. You can't do that. So again, the best source of information is not only the cyber advisor from Project Spectrum, but your contracting officer, the person that gave you the contract in the first place. They know and can help you walk through this CUI entanglement as well as the CMMC level 2. So a process card is CUI, but how do you push them out to 200 shop floor and poison? It is, I can understand that. I totally understand that. We had something similar in one of the areas that I worked in. We had vending machines giving out parts, you know, like gloves. You didn't want to have, you know, every day somebody needed a new set of gloves or tape or whatever. They put them in a vending machine. They put on top of a vending machine the control box, which was a little PC on the net. This vending machine gave control over distribution of things to the shop floor. But guess what? That little tiny XP device allowed somebody to break in. It was nasty. Thank you all. I know it's wrap up time. I appreciate your effort. I appreciate Rick's effort as well. I'm sitting back listening to the dad jokes and just backing up. But thank you all. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Richard. Or Rick, you know, hey, we could go on the road. Rick Rowe and Rick O. You know, we could be a vaudeville act. Anybody who remembers that, thank you so much. All right. Want to say thank you, everyone. That's going to wrap up our questions. Thank you so much for being here today, for engaging, for asking great questions, and for not muting me halfway through when I started talking about network segmentation. Now, I want to say a few last things before you go. You're going to find a feedback survey link in the chat. We'll also send it to you by email. We genuinely want to hear from you. Tell us what worked, what didn't. If the dad jokes were endearing, or you reconsider your life choices. We want the good, the bad, the ugly, and the please, Rick, no more analogies involving ogres and onions. Also, your feedback helps us make these sessions better. It gives you a chance to anonymously tell me my presentation style needs work as well, which I'm told is very therapeutic. So just take 5 minutes and fill it out. We do read every single response. Again, to wrap things up with a nice tidy bow that we bought from the dollar store, we know cybersecurity can feel overwhelming. We know CMMC compliance seems like a mountain to climb, but here's the thing. You're manufacturers. You solve complex problems every single day. You take raw materials, you turn them into precision components. You manage supply chains, quality control, production schedules, and workforce challenges. Compared to all that, cybersecurity is just another problem to solve. And you've got the tools, the resources, and the support to solve it. So fourth, map those assets, segment those networks, enable that MFA, build that resilience, and remember, Project Spectrum is here when you need us. Stay secure out there, folks, because in cybersecurity, as in manufacturing, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Or in this case, an ounce of prevention is worth approximately several hundreds of thousands of dollars on average, and a very uncomfortable phone call to your customers and your boss. Thanks again, everyone, from the entire Project Spectrum team. Want to say until next time, stay safe, stay compliant. May your audits be as uneventful as a Taylor Swift song that's not about an ex-boyfriend or a cat. Have yourselves a great day, and we wish you the best in your cybersecurity compliance journey.